Hi, it's Mr. Ramage, and this video lesson is going to tell you a little bit about what you need to know concerning American imperialism at the end of the 1800s and into the early 1900s. The first part of this lesson is going to explore some powerful ideas that helped drive America's imperialist expansion. The first idea is manifest destiny. This is a term you may have heard of before. Manifest destiny was the belief that America was destined by God to spread across the continent and beyond, to bring democracy, civilization, and capitalism to all those that did not have it. America had been expanding throughout its history, from the original 13 colonies and spreading west all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So America's growth and expansion was natural. But once we reached the Pacific Ocean, the question was, should America expand further beyond its natural borders? Now, the term manifest destiny comes from the writer John L. O'Sullivan, and when writing about the Texas annexation, he said, "Our manifest destiny to overspread the continent allotted by Providence for the free development of our yearly multiplying millions." He also said, "By the right of our manifest destiny to overspread and to possess the whole of the continent which Providence has given us for the development of the great experiment of liberty and federated self-government entrusted to us." So this belief that the American way was the best way fit nicely into the idea of manifest destiny. Another powerful idea that's going to drive America is this belief in social Darwinism, which became very popular at the end of the 19th century. Social Darwinism was the belief that certain races or people were more advanced and therefore better than others, giving them the right to rule over them, to control over them, to have influence over them. So less developed or inferior races or people or nations needed help from more advanced nations like the United States. The term white man's burden is also very prevalent during this time in both American and world history, as European countries are also going out and colonizing and expanding their influence to other parts of the world. White man's burden was the belief that white nations like the United States had a responsibility to go and to civilize other nations. And this idea is going to be popularized by the poem written by Rudyard Kipling about the United States' involvement in the Philippine Islands. The British poet Kipling wrote, "Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need, to wait in heavy harness on fluttered folk and wild, your new-caught sullen peoples, half devil and half child." Here at the end of the stanza, he refers to the people of the Philippines, your new-caught sullen peoples, half devil and half child, that without the United States to help guide them and to civilize them, that they would be left in chaos. Let's look at some more evidence of these ideas. It seems to me that God, with infinite wisdom and skill, is training the Anglo-Saxon race for an hour sure to come in the world's future. The lands of the earth are limited and soon will be taken. Then will the world enter upon a new stage in its history, the final competition of the races. Then this race of unequaled energy, with the majesty of numbers and the might of wealth behind it, the representative of the largest liberty, the purest Christianity, the highest civilization, will spread itself over the earth. This is Minister Josiah Strong, who strongly encouraged America to go out and to civilize those uncivilized parts of the world. Dr. Sherman, who was the head of President McKinley's committee to investigate the Philippines, said, "Should our power by any fatality be withdrawn, the commission believed that the government of the Philippines would speedily lapse into anarchy. Only through American occupation, therefore, is the idea of a free, self-governing, and united Philippine Commonwealth at all conceivable. That after the Spanish-American War and after the United States annexed the Philippines, that in order for the Philippines to be successful, it was dependent upon the United States. They recognize the indubitable fact that the Filipinos cannot stand alone. We cannot from any point of view escape the responsibilities of government. That if the United States were to leave the Philippines, it would go into chaos." And this also connects to the idea of paternalism. Paternalism was the belief that in treating those you believe to be inferior as if they were children. That the conquering nation was the parent, that people living in these territories like Hawaii and the Philippines and Puerto Rico are seen as childlike, people that need guidance, people that need protection, people that need leadership because they can't do it on their own. President McKinley said on the annexation of the Philippines, that we could not give them back to Spain. That would be cowardly and dishonorable. That we could not turn them over to France and Germany, our commercial rivals in the Orient. That would be bad business and discreditable. That we could not leave them to themselves. They were unfit for self-government. And they would soon have anarchy and misrule over there worse than Spain's was. And that there was nothing left for us to do but to take them all and to educate the Filipinos and uplift and civilize and Christianize them. And by God's grace, do the very best we could by them as our fellow men for whom Christ also died. So lots of religious implications here as well, taking over people and Christianizing them. President McKinley might have wanted to learn a little bit more about the Philippines because they were one of the largest Christian nations in Southeast Asia. But the idea of uplifting and civilizing people is predominant in these arguments to support annexation of other countries. You can see here on the covers of Judge magazine, the Philippines shown as a child with the father McKinley wading into the water of civilization to scrub him clean. And the caption reading the Filipinos' first bath. You can also see back here Puerto Rico and Cuba who've already been given their bath and who have donned their American clothing. And on this image, the Filipinos being drawn overly stereotypical and represented as a screaming child that Uncle Sam's not quite sure what to do with. So these ideas are going to drive American imperialism, manifest destiny, social Darwinism, white man's burden, and paternalism. In the next video, we'll continue to explore the specific actions that the United States took to expand its empire by looking at the purchase of Alaska and the annexation of Hawaii. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something.